Start off, I know you're not used to seeing me host. I am rarely in this position, but I can do it. So we're going to do it. Giselle is usually doing it. I'm putting Gino on the spot. Next week, Gino will be hosting Huddle. So let's clap that up. Let's clap that up. Good. So pay attention, G, and make your edits. All right, we're going to open up with prayer and then follow it with scripture from 1 Corinthians. But we're going to start off with prayer from Dr. Carolyn Haynes. Please welcome her with a strong clap.
Thank you, Father, for waking me up this morning with the activities of my body. And I thank God for the national network. I thank God for Reverend Sharpton allowing us, the Huddle, to meet here every Monday. And I bless Ashley and Dominique for having this program to help young people develop their minds, help them to learn what to do and what not to do. And I just want to thank God for blessing Dr. Kathy, that God is healing her and everything is working out in divine order for her. I bless her helpers. And right now, I'm blessing each and every one that come to meet at this Huddle meeting tonight. Bless the ones that's on their way. Bless the ones that desiring to be here but not able to come tonight. And I bless all the workers in the national networks that assisting, giving support to the Huddle. And I bless each and every one that come, that they will return home safe. And in the name of Jesus, I release these ideas into a cosmic law of mine, knowing that all is well. In Jesus' name, so be it.
Amen. Amen, so be it. As they say in my church, and that's that. Okay, so the scripture is actually inspired by Pastor Vincent Bohannon from Bible study this past Thursday. It comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 13. I would say if you have found it, please say amen, but I know we're not in church. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. I'm working on that. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. All right? Now we will have our action alerts. You ready, co-chair? By our co-chair and national membership director, Ms. Dominique Sharpton. Let's clap her up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So many of you know, last week there was another rallying cry and call for justice as the family of Tyree Nichols gathered in Memphis, Tennessee to lay their loved one to rest. Tens of thousands of people from across the world paused to remember the life of Tyre Nichols, a 29-year-old black man from Memphis, Tennessee, who was brutally beaten and killed by 5 police officers. His tragic death has become a rallying cry for urgent police reform. On last week, Wednesday, Reverend Sharpton delivered a rousing eulogy that summoned the nation, and indeed the world, to action, drawing a historical parallel to Memphis, the city where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in April of 1968. Reverend Sharpton said that he was personally insulted to learn that Nichols died at the hands of black police officers. 5 black men that wouldn't have had a job in the police department would not ever be thought of to be in the elite squad in the city that Dr. King lost his life. You beat a brother to death. There's nothing more insulting and offensive to those of us that fight to open doors, that you walk through those doors and act like the folks we had to fight to get you through them doors. Reverend Sharpton continued, you didn't get on the police department by yourself. The police chief didn't get there by herself. People had to march and go to jail, and some lost their lives to open the doors for you. And how dare you act like that sacrifice was for nothing? Reverend Sharpton introduced Vice President Kamala Harris, who traveled to Memphis, Tennessee to show support for the grieving family. And as Vice President of the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris stated that she demanded that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. And we're going to talk about that a little later in the program, but also in hopes that President Joe Biden will sign it, and we should not delay. That's what she said, reiterating the importance of sweeping police reform legislation that National Action Network and Reverend Sharpton has championed since the tragic death of George Floyd in 2020. If enacted into law, the legislation would set up a national registry of police misconduct to stop officers from evading consequences for their actions by moving to another jurisdiction. So we'll talk about that, but many of you know, if you remember Amadou Diallo case. Do you remember the Amadou Diallo case? We'll talk about that later on in Huddle. But that was a situation there where they moved the jurisdiction, they moved the trial to another county in order for it to be favorable for the police officer. So this is a tactic that's been utilized for years. And in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, that in particular is addressed, and that will not be able to happen. The bill was twice cleared in the House under the Democratic control in 2020 and 2021, largely along the party lines, but it never went anywhere in the Senate, even after Democrats won control in 2021, in part because of disagreements about qualified immunity, which protects police officers from being sued in civil court. So that's also a thing. You know, police officers get basically scathe-free. They have no financial penalty when they commit a crime or they are responsible for a loss of life. So they have no financial penalty, which is also going to change in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, because now that's stating that the police officers as individuals can be sued. So that also makes another conscience in your mind. If you know that you're gonna have to, pay up your pension, or you're gonna have to, pay your, you're gonna think twice about pulling that trigger. So that's another thing that definitely we need to get that passed. And then on Thursday, President Joe Biden said that he hopes that the tragic incident involving Tyre Nichols spurs some action and that we've all been fighting for. He said that he listened to Reverend Sharpton's eulogy and he thought it was first rate, but he also said we have to stay at it as long as it takes. Reverend Sharpton is in London, England this week, as National Action Network is going to be opening up an international chapter in London, England. So welcome to NAN London. Welcome to NAN London. And with the focus on internationalizing the struggles of oppressed people across the globe. Now this is serious because we fight oppression and we fight against police brutality and against racism and all of that here in the United States. But we often overlook the fact that there are people of color that are also discriminated against in different ways. Like there are, each country has their own thing. And so it was definitely interesting to hear about all of the discrimination and anger and hatred that is going on amongst people of color in London, And so they are really energized and very excited to start a chapter of National Action Network in London. And Reverend Sharpton will also head to England and Scotland to speak at Homertown College, University of Cambridge. And while in the UK, he will also meet with students, activists, and community leaders, including Sir Simon Woolley. A screening of the documentary Loudmouth is also going to be shown. And as I said, we welcome London, England to the National Action Network family, and we look forward to bolstering our relationships and, fighting injustice as it happens all across the globe and what that looks like. So we are energetic and excited to work with London on National Action Network. Save the date, National Action Network's 2023 convention is scheduled and is going to be held at the Sheraton New York Times Square Hotel in New York City from April 12th through the 15th. So make sure you sign up. April 15th, that Saturday, is Youth Day, so I'm excited about all of the things that's going to be happening on that day as well. And we will end, of course, with the fashion show. I know y'all, the young people, are excited about that and getting ready for that. But it's going to be a real dynamic week of events, of forums that's going to be taking place. We're going to be talking about a lot of the issues, of course, that we've been discussing, student loans and other things, financial, economic responsibility. We're going to have a panel on the status of HBCUs and funding our HBCUs. We're going to have conversations about voting rights, healthcare, education reform. I mean, you name it, it's going to be there at the convention. And it's all free. Free 99, free 99. You just have to sign up and register to attend. And we are always looking forward to a great convention, but we need all of us to make that happen. So get on your posts, register, get 10 or 20 people also, in addition to you, to also register, because that's how we do it. And we look forward to having everybody join us in New York City, April 12th through the 15th. All right, thank you so much. I'll see you all later in the program.
Thank you, Dominique. It was a lot. All right. Next is our Artivism segment. So we're calling A. Gregory Harris and Danielle Sorrell to the front.
No justice! No justice! No justice! No justice! What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 Fist bump the person next to you and tell them you love them. And we definitely love National Action Network. Give a big round of applause for our London chapter. We're excited about that. And I just want to take this time to thank all of the committees who we came together in unity for a phenomenal, awesome Black History Month program. Give it up. Yeah, it was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And NAN Arts and Culture has always been our goal to collaborate with all of our NAN committees, and that happened on Saturday, the birthday of Rosa Parks, and we are excited about that. So I'm going to turn it right over to Danielle.
What's going on, NAN family? How we feeling tonight? Everybody good? Everybody in the right state of mind? We're making much, much progress, both domestic and international. And we must remain uplifted and realize that we got to keep our eye on the prize, so to speak. So I'm going to play a tribute. It was a Stevie Wonder tribute by an artist named Beyonce. It may be a repeat, but we all love Beyonce's music because she's talented, and she oftentimes uses her platform in a way that is, I'm going to say, very regal and renowned, and we appreciate her for that. We appreciate her ability, and by the grace of God, we can get this music going. It's a Stevie Wonder tribute, Higher Ground. So we're just jamming a little bit tonight. Tonight is a little laid back, but that's all right, because we realize we gotta keep on going until we reach our higher ground, until we reach our higher ground in Congress, until we reach our higher ground in the Senate. So just listen to the lyrics and let our thoughts meditate and manifest on that higher ground we are striving towards, that we are steadfast, wholeheartedly trudging towards. higher volume. So listen to these words. Power. Y'all hear that? Our people. Keep on trying. That's right. The world gonna keep on turning, and it won't be too long. All right? My brother, hold on. My sister, hold on. Y'all out there, hold on. Keep on trying. Until what? What is it? Reach the high ground. Amen. I feel a little different tonight. That's all right. All right, we can end it right there. That's the message for this evening. Art and Artivism segment. Thank you, NAN family. God bless you.
Thank you. Let's clap them up. Thank you. And salute to Beyonce. She made history yesterday at the Grammys. For Black History Month. Let's clap that up. That's a great thing. Same with Viola Davis. It was great things. All right, so next we will have our Black History Fact of the Day, again by Dominique Sharpton. And following that, we have announcements. So any good news or announcement that you may have to share, you can line up right on the side and share it. We ask that you make it short because we don't want to, get into the did you know time. But any good news, we can start it off. Dominique?
All right, so our Black History Fact of the Day. Does anybody know there was a significant birthday yesterday? A young Black male was shot and killed in Florida a few years ago, 11 years ago to be exact, and he had a birthday yesterday. He would have been 28 years old. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? Gino, who am I talking about? You know? Any idea? No? Take a wild guess. He was wearing a hoodie when he got killed. Trayvon Martin. So yesterday would have been Trayvon Martin's 28th birthday. He was killed when he was 17. That's 11 years ago. He was walking home back to his father's house with some Skittles and iced tea. And he unfortunately didn't make it home that night because of a neighborhood watchman who took it upon himself to patrol the neighborhood and get into an altercation with Trayvon that resulted in him losing his life. Unfortunately, George Zimmerman did not serve any time or did not and there was no accountability had for the fact that he caused the death of this young man. And the country, the world, I would say, literally stood up in protest and demonstration to really stand for this injustice. I think it was our modern day Emmett Till. And and with that said, his parents, Sabrina and Tracy, started a foundation in his honor. And they had their Trayvon Martin Memorial Weekend. They don't celebrate, of course, the day that he passed, but they celebrate his life, the day that he was born. And so they do their commemorative events around his birth date, which was this past weekend. And this past weekend, in addition to them having their annual peace walk, in which many of the community leaders and elected officials come together and walk in peace in memory of Trayvon, who never got to walk in peace home. They also had a dinner, a gala, where they basically raised funds for the foundation. And at the dinner last night, they honored Ashley and myself as champions for justice and trailblazers, along with April Ryan and Roland Martin. And it was just an honor, and it was a great time. But also, we just, we have to remain committed to the cause, and we have to stay committed to the fight. There's a lot of people who we've seen that Things have happened to, tragedies unfortunately have happened, and they get a pass to go in the corner and literally just mourn and check out, and that's okay. But this family has chosen to stand up, has chosen to really commit their pain, to a purpose, and so we want to do what we can to always support them and to do what we can to always lift up the name of Trayvon Martin. So let's say his name, Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin. Happy 28th birthday, young king. We'll always fight in your honor, and we'll never forget you.
Thank you, Dominique. Come on up. Anybody else have good news? You can follow her. Carmela, our praise dancer. I like your red. You Valentine's Day ready.
Yes. Today, I put in my retirement papers. After 21 years working at Queens Educational Opportunity Center, I am finally retiring, and I put in the paperwork today. Yippee!
That's right. Congratulations, Camilla. Congratulations. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Any other announcements? Any other good news? All right? No? Okay, well. I guess I'll share. It was not great news, but before the Tyree Nichols, I went with Reverend Sharpton to Memphis, Tennessee with his contingency for the Tyree Nichols funeral. But the day before, well, not the day before, the morning of, we went to the site where Dr. King was killed. And it's not good news, it's solemn, but that was my first time ever going there. And it was the Lorraine Motel, and they've turned it into a museum now. Dominique went before. But it was just really eerie. It was really eerie to go there on the morning of Tyree Nichols' funeral, where they had killed these 5 black cops and a white cop, beat this man to death, Tyree Nichols. But literally, like Rev said it, in the city where they slain the dreamer, what happened to the state of the dream. But it was crazy to go there and to see where he was killed, to see my godfather Jesse Jackson, and I've grown up knowing Jesse Jackson my whole life and hearing the stories, but to actually see. He was standing behind them on the balcony. He was among Dr. King's staff, literal pictures. It reminded me of Dad and Stephen and Toon. You know what I'm saying? It's the staff, literally the organizers, that was there. And it just, I don't know why it clicked then, but it just really made me understand what we have to do now and exactly what has been going on in this time. I know this is a lot to say, but I think Reverend Sharpton is the Dr. King of this time. And to go there with him before he preached Tyree Nichols' funeral and to understand exactly how they slayed Dr. King on that balcony, to understand that on the first day of Black History Month, to understand exactly what they stole from us and exactly how they feel about us in this country, and to actually have to continue on in the legacy of them in their footsteps and in their footprints, it just made me understand my purpose and mission a little more. So I just wanted to take the time to say thank you to my dad and to Reverend Sharpton and the NAN for allowing me to experience that. But he also said that he wants to take a contingency of Huddle there every year going forward to go experience that same experience at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, so that our young people understand the dreamer that we lost, what they did to him, and understand our fight going forward, like we did with Selma. So I want us, Gino, I want the young people watching to understand, I don't want you just to come to go on a trip, but just understand that we have so much to do. There's so much to do in this time, in this fight, in the movement, and the field is plenty, but the laborers are few. It's on us, so we gotta do it. And it's on all of us. It's not just on us or just us. It's on all of us. And the burden of that definitely was clearly made last week. And as we remember Black History Month, and Black History Month is every month for us, every day. But just understand its blessings and the beauty that we saw at the Grammys, but also the burden of our history and how they're trying to delete it and how they're trying to erase it, not just in Florida, but all over this country. Dan is going to talk about that later. A lot of people saying, oh yeah, in Florida they're taking out Black history, they're banning it, but it's not just in Florida. They're trying to do it in Alabama, they're trying to do it in 20 other states. So this is real. This is a real battle. It's like we're regressing literally daily. And because we're not reading, because we don't know better, because we're looking on Instagram and looking on social media and not really understanding exactly what's going on, we're losing. So we have to pay attention and work together and really figure out how to go forward. But yeah, that was my, not good news, but that was my news. All right, so any other good news? I know that was a little solemn. Well, good, Lisa, come on. And while she's coming, I was late last week, but my mom is back in the building, and that's great news. After a surgery, after being off her feet for almost 2 months, that's a great thing. It's a blessing. All glory be to God. Lisa Hobbs.
I want to take this time out to wish David a happy birthday in the back, because he want to be all shy. Happy birthday, David. Happy birthday, Ricardo, too.
Aquarius season. That's Lisa's season. That's why she did that. We're going to get y'all a cake. We got you. We got you. Right. And Gina, right, exactly. You got an announcement?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to take the time and piggyback with Arnold and to thank all of the committee chairs and the committee members for collaborating together. And as we set the trend for Black History NAN, it was a great, great day. And it was just good to see everybody working together, merging together, and I honestly did not expect so many people to stay, but I was so happy that they did. And we just didn't have enough time because more people wanted to perform, new people. So maybe we'll get an extra 30 minutes, all right? But thank you, that's what I wanted to say.
Well, yes, well, I have some good news. I just had a grandson who was born on December the 29th, 2022. That is Marcus Al's birthday. Okay, and so I'm so excited about it, and I'm looking forward to Marcus Al and Courtney. Yes, Cornelly, yeah. Yeah, to have birthday parties. Awesome. Okay.
Congratulations. All right, that was great news. See? All right. So I also have 2 announcements from Megan Buckley, and she's in the choir. She was a former advisor, but it was just good information. Anybody remember Amir Locke? Amir Locke. Yes. He was killed last year? Yes. Okay. His parents were at the convention. They came here to speak. Attorney Crump is their lawyer. So it marked a year 2 days ago, but the parents have now announced that they are suing Minneapolis basically because of the no-knock warrant that the cops did to kill their child. So I'm gonna give the full story, but I wanted us to give an update because I don't like when we're on cases and we don't follow up. So Amir Locke's parents are now suing Minneapolis PD on behalf of their child. So that's the update with that case. Attorney Crump is the lawyer, so they'll be giving us updates as they go along if they need support. But that's basically what's going on with the Amir Locke case. And the last time we saw them was last April because they're in Minneapolis, but they joined us for convention. Now, this is interesting. This is random, but it's interesting information that Megan also sent. And it's an important announcement. The headline is COVID-19. Everybody knows what COVID-19 is, right? COVID-19 is the leading cause of death among children. That was alarming for me, but she wanted us to share it, and I thought it was important since we work with young people here. So let's share. COVID-19 was the 8th leading cause of death amongst children in recent months, according to a study published Monday. In a year-long period from August 2021 to July 2022, 821 children ages 0 to 19 died from COVID-19 at a rate of 1 per 100,000. Children's deaths of any kind are rare, so that's still small, but that's still enough. COVID-19 ranked 5th in non-disease-related deaths and 1st in infectious or respiratory illness deaths, overtaking the flu and pneumonia. Before the pandemic in 2019, the leading causes of death among children were perinatal conditions, unintentional injuries, birth defects, assault, suicide, cancerous tumors, heart disease, and influenza. The time period researchers analyzed coincided with the rise of Delta and Omicron COVID-19 cases. They found that studying over 12-month periods during the pandemic did not change the results. Researchers noted that their results were limited by the underreporting of COVID-19 cases and the exclusion of deaths where COVID-19 could have been a contribution or applying factor in tandem with other conditions, such as influenza. So COVID might not have been the direct cause of death, but it helped in a combination with something else. So let's just continue to be safe, to try to be safe amongst each other. I also know that I think the White House is lifting bans in March, I believe they announced. So just let's try to, I know some people are still wearing masks, and that's great. If you want to wear a mask, please wear them. We still have some in the front, but just try to be safe. If you have the flu or a cough, take care of yourself. Don't come out. I would still stay home because you just don't know what others have. Some people are immune to COVID, and some people can literally die from COVID. So let's just try to be safe and respect each other of all ages. But thank you, Megan Buckley, for sharing that information with us. And now we will begin our Did You Know segments. So we will start with Mr. Dan. And he's talking about Florida and the removal of Black history. Let's clap him up.
All right, I'm back on the microphone. There was a really, really long article I would love to share with y'all, but unfortunately, it's a little bit too at length. So I'm going to read an article from February 6, 2023, titled, Publishing Company Will Offer Free Black History eBooks, Especially in Florida. There's an image in the article, and it begins to state, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaks at an annual leadership meeting of the Republican Jewish Coalition on November 19, 2022 in Las Vegas. DeSantis reiterated Monday, January 23, 2022, that the state's rejection of a proposed nationwide advanced African American studies course, saying it pushes a political agenda, something 3 authors cited in the state's criticism accused him of doing in return. A Chicago-based publishing house will offer free ebooks focused on Black history after the College Board revised its Advanced Placement African American Studies course earlier this month. And Haymarket Books has Florida specifically in its sight. The College Board's revisions came after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis refused to allow the class in Florida high schools. In the revised course, the subjects of Black queer studies, intersectionality, and activism, the reparations movement, and Black scholars associated with critical race theory have been removed. Black conservationism was added as a potential research topic. Now, Haymarket Books, a radical publisher of politics, culture, current events, said DeSantis and the complicit College Board have left it with no choice. The racist governor of Florida continues to escalate his attacks on the freedom to learn and teach history, the publishing house says in a press release last week. We at Haymarket stand in solidarity with all those in Florida and across the country who are organizing to resist. We know that books can be dangerous to those in power, especially when they are in the hands of folks who are organizing to fight for liberation. That's why we publish them. That's why they're trying to ban them, the company added. Haymarket Books will offer the following ebooks for free to download. Titles From Black Lives Matter to Black Liberation by Kinja Yamhata, which explores why the Black Lives Matter movement is necessary. Black Lives Matter at School and Uprising for Educational Justice, edited by Jesse Hagapian and Denise Jones, which details how the Black Lives Matter movement has challenged institutional racism. And 1919 by Eve L. Ewing, a collection of poems depicting the Chicago race riots of 1999. That's year 1999 for y'all, in case anyone's confused. Black people have always figured out ways to teach our history in spaces beneath, beyond, and betwixt the machinations of people like Ron DeSantis. Ewing said, the only thing he ever got right in his life was understanding how insurgent our stories really are, how threatening to the status quo of a nation built on theft. The company is also looking to provide Florida residents with more radical books, and that's quoted, quote, radical books, end quote, to distribute to young people in the state. So I don't want anybody to be confused by the word radical book. These books could include any Haymarket published works, which range in topics from abolition to black politics to police and prisons to socialism and Marxism. The struggle is long, but we are many, the group said. The College Board has been under heavy criticism for its revisions to the African American Studies course, which is released on the first day of Black History Month. Biden's post-midterm, oh, excuse me, that's not supposed to be there. It's printed in the article, but blooper, part of that. Moving right along, the article goes on to detail. Though David Coleman, the head of the College Board, told the New York Times that the changes were not made to bow to political pressure. DeSantis' administration took credit for the move. Thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis, as at Gov. Ron DeSantis, principled stand for education over identity politics. The College Board will be revising the course for the entire nation. DeSantis' press secretary Brian Griffin said on Twitter. Florida's Department of Education is now reviewing the revisions to ensure they follow state law, which restricts how topics such as racism can be taught in schools and prohibits any instruction that could be making someone feel personal responsibility for historic wrongdoings because of their race, sex, or national origin. So if anybody from the audience wants to answer, how do you feel about what's going on in education with respects to Black history and the subject of Black history, the topic of Black history, and the inclusion of Black history in education for our educators out there and also for our students? Does anyone want to answer how the article makes you feel and how the subject matter at hand makes you feel? Anyone? Chairperson for Education Committee, Gina C. Williams. Welcome, welcome.
So yes, I have a lot of feelings about this, and that is because if they do ban articles and they try to erase Black history in the South, it's going to be a ripple effect that will come to the North. And this is why they never start these things in the North, because it's not going to happen. So as our mayor and our chancellor and the superintendents are diligently working with BEU, which is the Black Educator Leaders, to develop and to push the Black curriculum in schools, which is a marvelous thing, because people need to see, when I say people, I mean from the smallest, from the 3K up to college students and even adults and adult literacy. They need to see themselves as successful. They need to see themselves as talented. They need to see themselves as educated. They need to see themselves to dare to dream the impossible and know that they can do it. And there is nothing wrong with that. So at the Black History Celebration, we had a author, and hopefully she will be back again to discuss how she started to write her book, which is a book for children of color and how they can dare to fly to higher heights of excellence. And so I think that we need to diligently keep alert on how books are being moved and also take advantage of the Schomburg and start exposing, everybody to, especially the bookstore, because they have a lot of programs there. They have computer class, adult literacy, everything for everyone. It's just that I don't think it's advertised enough, and it goes back to what you were saying about the e-books. So I think if we had more computer training and more accessibility to the technology, that would be an asset, and probably Wi-Fi. So as we know, we're in an educational economic crunch, and a lot of people do not have what they need to excel. So this is why we have to be even more competitive to our opponents, if you will, who are not of color, because they have accessibility to everything. And even if they don't, they get it easily, more easily than we do. So we always have to keep the pen to the paper and push for the bills.
Thank you. Excellent.
More and more, I'm present to the Willie Lynch syndrome. Everything that's happening in politics, in education, in finance is based on and founded underneath the Willie Lynch syndrome. Divide and conquer. You're not allowed to learn. You can't let people get smarter. It's like, can't have competition. Scared of women so that they manipulate and emasculate their young males. It's like this, the whole thing. If we just read that, turn that into an educational tool and have that as a strategy to actually outdo it, I think maybe in 10 to 20 years, just doing that alone, we would kill this off completely, because we've been dealing with this since 1619 or whenever Willie Lynch came up with his story. Early 1700s. Yeah, that's true. Because he was like, how come these guys ain't working it out, Jamaica's like, get out of here, leave me alone. And, we wasn't able to do that here. So if we could just learn how to use the Willie Lynch syndrome to our benefit and stop them from doing all of that stuff, because they're not doing anything that's not inside that. I think that's what would take care of us, but also take care of them, because they'd actually wake up and realize that they got to deal with us, because we ain't going nowhere. I'm complete.
All right, I hope the audience understood that. Thank you for your contribution.
Hi, God bless y'all. Good day, everybody, and God bless everybody. I'm glad that we're here together. When I was listening to the article, I'm aware of some of what the College Board did. Right now, they're under pressure by the current politicians. Fortunately, these people do not have to be reelected. So when there's a new politician who really supports education, the College Board can now change. It's going to be back and forth, depending on how the voters vote. Now, we really, really understand that this particular party, AKA the Republicans, are not putting any shade on what their intentions are with voters. They're taking a lot for granted, and we must really show that the vote has a lot of power and that we can vote for people who are really about the well-being of all people. So when I hear the College Board, they're under pressure. They want the funding from the politicians who are currently in power. So I really understand that. But I also know that technology has enabled a lot of us, including me, to research what I want to know. There's somebody that's going to mention this, and we can follow up. The thing about it is the realization is whatever they're trying to suppress, they can't really suppress, because they can't explain without explaining what they don't want to explain, why we are here and why we have some of the same names they have. They're going to have to, somebody's going to question that. So they're never going to get away from that. They really need to understand the realization that as long as we're here, and we're here because God put us here, if they don't want to explain it, just leave things alone, let people live at peace, basically. Thank you.
Thank you as well. And with that being said, back to our normal programming.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you to everyone who shared their opinions. But we were in Florida, and we heard from a few educators at the Trayvon Martin Foundation Gala. And I just want to say, pray for the educators out there because they're also very stressed. It's dangerous. One of the teachers, she was female. She had three of her young people there, but she was saying that regardless of what they put in place, she's going to teach what she's going to teach. And I respect that, but we also have to make sure they are okay because she's risking her job, her life, her livelihood in Florida. Florida, we already know that it's different down there. Just like Alabama, it's also happening in Alabama. So, but I like what everyone offered. But I like what the article offered as well. I feel like, and we went to a school, my mother and my father put us into a private all-black school. It was in a brownstone in Brooklyn. And it was literally for black children. And we learned African-American curriculum. We learned the Nguzo, we learned about Kwanzaa. We learned about the South African anthem. We had to sing, lift our voices, sing every morning. We had to wear uniforms. We had to learn Swahili. But the point is that this woman named Mother Ayanna Johnson, she decided to create a curriculum. And this was way before nobody was trying to take reparations out of books. But she felt that what they were offering in America was not sufficient for black children to know who they were and to know how great we were, how we come from kings and queens, and how they had to literally treat us like animals because they were that afraid of us, of our power and our minds. That's called slavery, and that's what they don't want to be mentioned and taught to their children because they're embarrassed. But we can teach our history. We can, if you know how to read, if you can, like you just said, like Gina just said, use the library, use the books, use the Schomburg, use the ebooks that are free, use different resources that are available. And we can huddle up and learn things about it. You can huddle up in your houses. You can huddle up in other community centers. But there's ways around this. They cannot just take things out of a book. That's not the first time they did that. A lot of our history is not in the books, and we know that. So we have to do our own duty, and we need to just stop depending on this education system and do our own. And that's just my personal opinion. I know that's easier said than done, but I just think we have to be more proactive. And please, please, please pray for our educators out in Florida that's fighting this every day because they're living it on the front line. All right, our next presenter again is Dominique. She's gonna do the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Last week I challenged the children, I don't think Gina was here, but I challenged the young people that were here to define qualified immunity. Right? That's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing bill. So she's going to talk about that. I don't know if anybody went home and found out what it was, but if you want to share before she shares what it is, we welcome you to come up here and answer that question. But this is very, very important. Tomorrow, does anybody know what's happening tomorrow nationally with the president? State of the Union, right. So this is essential because Sheila Jackson Lee is going to present this bill again after the State of the Union. Okay? Okay, so let's listen up.
Did you look it up? Do you have an answer? What is qualified immunity? There. Okay, come on in. Come on in.
I believe there was more to the research we were supposed to do regarding qualified immunity, which was supposed to yield us presenting some findings regarding when qualified immunity has particular functions. So qualified immunity, according to my Wikipedia reads, in the United States, qualified immunity is a legal principle that grants government officials performing discretionary, optional, in parentheses, functions, immunity from civil suits unless a plaintiff shows that the official violated clearly established statutory or constitutional rights of which a reasonable person would have known. And there's more. Wikipedia goes on to detail regarding sovereign immunity. And in close, I feel it's important for us to understand indemnification and how indemnification can be used. And my case study regarding qualified immunity reveals that it's important to understand it's good for us to reevaluate and reassess qualified immunity because there are those using qualified immunity as an abuse of power, whereby they are scapegoating their responsibilities to protect and serve based on their own personal agendas, whether that be obviously corrupt or less obviously corrupt, so that they can find their own self-benefit while abusing the governmental systemic protections that have been placed in effect for those to protect and serve. So that is my point, and it is, again, regarding reevaluation of qualified immunity.
Got it. Okay. So let's get into exactly what the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is, because as many of you will watch the State of the Union tomorrow, as many young people will hear George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, it's important for you to understand exactly what that means and what it entails. So for the first thing, I want to just update that, yes, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is going to reintroduce this to the, in the House of Representatives on tomorrow, with a provision, a new version of the legislation that will include the Tyre Nichols duty to intervene provision, and that is outlining officers' responsibility to act when they witness misconduct. So officers can no longer just stand by and be like, oh, that's not my thing. They will also be held accountable if they are at the scene and they don't do anything to interfere when they see a crime being committed by another officer. So that is a provision of the law. Now, with that said, that provision also makes it very dicey, very, it gets a little more controversial when trying to get this bill passed. And I also want us to understand why it's taken so long for it to get passed. Because we hear Biden talking, and people are like, oh, he's just so full of it. He's just talking. He's not going to do nothing. No, he really can't really do anything until Congress and Senate, approve it. So that's why it hasn't been passed. But what is it actually? The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, it is a federal bill aimed at reforming U.S. police departments by cracking down on controversial tactics like the no-knock warrants that was utilized when Breonna Taylor was murdered, and making it also easier to prosecute officers who are accused of violence. The bill is named after George Floyd, and the legislation would ban federal law enforcement officers from using chokeholds like the one that ended Floyd's life. And it would also require state and local police departments that receive federal funding, defund the police, that receive federal funding to adopt the same policy. Are y'all with me? Okay, stay with me. State and local police departments that receive federal funding would be required to enforce a number of other policies as well, which includes providing officers with body cameras, in which we saw the body camera footage that was released from Tyre Nichols' situation. They are going to be required to wear the body cameras and have them on when they stop civilians on the street. Also establishing an anti-discrimination program and mitigating the use of deadly force. Has the Congress tried to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act before? Yes. The bill passed the House twice when the chamber was still controlled by Democrats, first in June 2020 and later in March of 2021. The bill passed almost entirely along party lines both times, as most Republicans opposed the legislation and stalled in the Senate. After the House passed the bill again in 2021, two Democratic lawmakers, then Congresswoman Karen Bass, who's now Mayor Congresswoman Bass of California, and Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, they engaged in talks with Tim Scott, the Republican senator from South Carolina, to try to craft a bipartisan compromise on the legislation. Those broke down in September of 2021, and then after months of exhausting every possible pathway to a bipartisan deal, it remained out of reach. So they couldn't come to an understanding, and so the bill has been delayed since September of 2021. Will the Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act now in response to the killing of Tyre Nichols? Attorney Benjamin Crump said at Tyre Nichols' funeral that they plan to, of course, reintroduce the bill after the State of the Union, but the bill is unlikely to pass the House again, given that the chamber is now controlled by Republicans. So that is also the deal. So it's like a bait and switch. It's like back and forth. Whoever's in control. Now the Republicans are in control, so we probably won't see it pass. And so if the Congress does not act on police reform, what can the president do? What can Biden do? Biden has already signed one executive order to address police reform, which incorporated some elements of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The order required that all federal law enforcement agencies participate in a new database tracking allegations of misconduct and mandated new agency standards to limit the use of force. So now there is an executive order that has been passed in which agencies have to basically file if your officers are involved in misconduct or your officers are involved in a crime or whatever, they have to file it with an agency so that it's on file. And as you can see, as those files continue to accumulate, Memphis is already off the roof now because another incident just happened last week with Memphis police beating another young man of color, but he survived. But as that track record starts to build, you start to see these practices and these police departments be put on blast, by these federal agencies. So that is also, it's not something that we can necessarily see with our eyes as being very effective, but it is something long-term that can be very effective when we're trying to crack down on exposing. Reverend Sharpton used to paint red X's on crack houses to expose injustice. So this is another way that will paint that red X on these police departments in various cities who have a high rate of misconduct. Y'all following me? Yeah. All right, stay with me. But civil rights leaders say that the order does not go far enough to address the issue of police reform. That ain't good enough for us. We got the executive order, but that not helping us. Y'all still stopping us on the street. Y'all still attacking us. You're still killing us, and you're still getting away with it. That's not enough, okay? So the White House has echoed that sentiment. And hours before the video of the police beating Nichols was released, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told the reporters that Biden did everything that he could do with the tools that he had. We know that's not true. So activists are pushing for nationwide change. We're going to Washington, D.C. in August in celebration of the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. So we plan to take another 200,000 people to Washington, D.C. to hold up, the Capitol for the day, again, to say, all right, look, we got your executive order, Biden, but this ain't enough. And by August, something has to happen, or we're going to take the Capitol again. That's just basically what's going to happen. And so with that said, we need to understand our critical role in getting this legislation passed, right? So our role is to demonstrate, continue to make noise, stay out there, be visible. Everywhere we go, we come out in massive numbers, and we're talking about this bill needs to be passed, this bill needs to be passed. That's the demonstration part. The legislative part, we also need to be in Biden's ear, and Kamala's ear, and these congressmen's ear. Y'all saw Senator Kirsten Gillibrand here Saturday. So there's a continued conversation being had, which you may not see or understand, that has to continue to happen in order for this to move forward. All right, so I just want y'all to understand the layers to this. Everybody understand? Okay, so now, in the end, Biden can sign an executive order that includes and encompasses bits and parts of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So he can take qualified immunity, pass an executive order on that. He can take the reporting to agencies, pass an executive order on that. He can take the body camera footage, the body cameras, pass an executive order on that. So he can keep taking parts of this and passing executive orders until we get an inclusive bill. And we'll take that. So that's plan B. Start passing these executive orders on sections of the bill that we know we need to happen right now. Right now. So you can do the body cameras right now. You can do an executive order on qualified immunity right now. So there are things that can be done that we need to, so that's where we come in as activists. We need to be knocking on Biden every time. Nah, we don't want you to come. When you come to King Day, you want to speak for us, we need you to pass the executive order. You want to come and speak at our convention, pass the executive order. Because we know what's happening in 2024 is a re-election. This brother's going to be running for a re-election. There's going to be a presidential election. And I'm telling you, this is going to be on the forefront of how they will address the Black agenda. You understand? And we are at the helm of that. So I just want y'all to understand what's going on right now and how we play a critical role in really what can be decided for Black America in the country. So understand your role. Understand your role. And it's important that you understand this and you understand what this bill entails, because that is what we need to do. We need to get Biden right now to start passing executive orders on sections of the bill leading up until August. We go out, massively demonstrate in August, and then we need him, by the time he wants to step out and say, re-elect me, we need to have this done. So that's the plan. All right, I think I took a lot of time. Anybody have questions? I think Ms. Gina wanted to come up and ask something.
So let's say that the executive orders get passed on qualified immunity. Let's start there. When would that take effect? Now, is that going to take effect and be accountable for all of the past behaviors, for all of those who have committed, or are they going to use, not to, give them an excuse, but I kind of see where this is going to go, they're going to use the Black police officers as strange fruit, even though they deserve the full extent of the law, but they're going to make them the example. Now, when they make them the what about the others that preceded them?
So Biden he actually has the power to do the retroactive whatever. That's not likely to happen, and it's very unlikely to happen. However, you are correct. The the visibility that the cops these police officers now are getting with the Tyre Nichols case, they will be used as scapegoats, to get this done. But that's not totally a bad thing. I'm not saying that's totally a bad thing, because we need to use it. As long as we get it done, use it. However, what we don't want to see happen is for them to continue sitting, making provisions on executive orders because everybody wants to get what they want, and then nothing gets passed. And we've been sitting on this bill for 2 years now. So the thing is to now get it done. Let's protect the future as best we can, and then hopefully that is a step forward that we need. Sister Word?
Yeah. This is purely my opinion, so I want you to know that. In my opinion, Biden is kind of unrealistic in terms of really comprehending who he's working with. He seems to me to believe that these people are going to change and do the right thing. Right. It's not happening. It's getting worse. So if he thought he's not going to use his executive order because he's going to talk to these people, try to reason with these people, these Republicans, they disagree among themselves strongly. So, of course, he's not going to talk to a Democrat rationally. But Biden, he has these high expectations, and he's not necessarily wrong, but he got to look at what he's really dealing with. Right. So my belief in the presidency, though I don't really fully know what their powers really are, but put the pen to the paper and just see what happens, President. Yes. Do your best to really make an effort to protect the public. That's who needs to be protected. From politicians who don't have their best interests in mind either. They have to be on the comprehensive list of people that intend to do harm generally to the public. In terms of these Black police officers, it's not about skin color at all. It's about this uniform. So they have to be held accountable for what they did to Brother Nichols. They have to be. So it's not a color thing. Biden has to really understand, and that's the action that was at the forefront, because Brother Reverend Al Sharpton is on his job at presenting this issue to him regularly. There's now mothers of children who have been killed by police officers who are on their job. Biden really needs to comprehend there's a need for correction, and if he has that power, use it to the fullest extent necessary. It's necessary. Thank you.
Well said, Sister Ward. Thank you. My sister.
I think we always have to remember that everybody's sleeping in the bed together. So just like Mayor Eric Adams used to be a police officer and now he's a mayor. No one's going to, they already know what's going on. They used to be it. So they're not going to go against each other. That's the whole point of, see, the problem is we always saying the system not working, but the system is working. See, the system works. It's not working for people that are not a part of the system. Just like when I wanted to get on the community board. Either the senator had to put me in or the borough president. You had to have a political connection to get you on another level. You cannot get on a level without knowing somebody. You gotta know somebody. So these people already know, these crooked family members, they're not gonna go against their own brother, their son-in-law. These people already sleeping together. They already know each other. So you go to Republicans. Republicans have high office friends and family. So we're going through this kind of problem. You know what I'm saying? And we know what we're saying when you are into politics. When you're into politics, they don't just let you get in. They say, okay, well, the senator has to recommend you or the borough president. Now you got to get to know them. Because you in the street, you want to move to the next level. They say, oh, well, you got to know this person. This person got to put you in. We all got to be connected. It just doesn't happen that way, and only the general public gets confused about that. And we got to educate the general public about how you got to know this person to move this way and how to move silently. But we're not going to move without knowing certain people. It's just not going to happen. That's not how the system works. And the system is not going to destroy itself because it works.
All right, y'all. Well, I will encourage you. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is it's a lengthy bill. It has a lot of different sections to it. I think that they try to put everything in there, so it is very lengthy and dense. However, I think that if we piece out these executive orders and take section by section, I think that that is something that can lead to progress. And it's a good strategy to get things moving forward if we can't get the whole cake at one time. So I think that, that should be the plan. And like I said, we're heading to August and, to Washington, D.C. in August. And we know that we're going to continue to talk about this because this is, like I said, going to be at the top of everyone's agenda, especially those politicians who want to get out and run for president in 2024. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back over to Ashley.
Thank you, Dominique, and thank you to everyone who shared. That was an important issue. Next, we will have Patrice Perry, who has a similar article about police training, and then our last article tonight is from Gina Williams, which is the issue about student loan debt cancellation. Let's clap up Patrice Perry, our senior advisor.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Huddle family. So my Did You Know tonight is what the police academy gets wrong about training future officers. On January 29th, 2023, I did something, meaning Katie Sponsler, that millions of people do. She vented on Twitter. She watched the video of Tyre Nichols' murder, and she watched too many videos of excessive force to see if a former law enforcement officer could see what went wrong. But she saw the same thing she always sees, a deeply rooted problem with training and culture. So she poured her heart out to many small groups of followers, most of whom known her personally, and spoke of losing her job that she loved because she couldn't stay quiet about these problems. She left law enforcement almost 10 years ago, and that doesn't pain me. But seeing these same problems so prevalent after nearly a decade, and after Trayvon and Ferguson and George Floyd and so many others haunts her. She vented, but put down the phone and went on a hike. She went to bed. Then she woke up to a tweet that had been viewed millions of times. Suddenly, she found herself in the center of a national conversation about police brutality. To be clear, she never found herself there. She didn't think she was anyone special. She said nothing new. She's heard her thoughts in rallies and marches.
Her perspective as a white woman and a former law enforcement officer is not the one that most needs to be heard in a conversation about the violence that impacts Blacks, Latinos, and Indigenous Americans. But as it has been elevated, she was given a platform, and she was trying to do some good with that, because this problem is one we have to solve. We cannot pretend it doesn't exist. So let me tell you what she knows. In the police academy and many courses in criminal justice, she studied the reports of lines of duty deaths. She's watched the dash cam footage of traffic stops where officers are shot, read the complete investigation of deaths like Rangers Anderson and Eagle. As a National Park Ranger, these two in particular have been a constant in her education. Their murders shape so much of the National Park Service, NPS, trains its rangers. She studied these deaths to find out how to prevent them, to determine what gaps in training may have allowed this to happen. In her training, however, they are not shown videos like that of the shooting of LaVar Jones on September 4th, 2014. She watched the video of Jones being shot on the news just a few months after being dismissed from her 3rd police academy, a day before graduation, just a few months before being denied a decision and being fired from the NPS. She thought as she watched it of the training exercise where officers were shown a different video of a man reaching towards his glove box for his registration and instead pulling out a gun, firing 6 shots, killing the officers that stopped him, and then driving away. After the video and the classroom instruction, the hands-on portion of that traffic stop course had involved a series of vehicle approaches. The driver retrieved a weapon from their vehicle and shot at the officer in training. It quickly became a game within the class to see if the officer in training could beat the driver to the drawer. Reaching into glove boxes, center consoles, under their seats, and visors, those playing the role of drivers always produced a firearm and immediately shot the officer before they reach in the vehicle. We cannot keep adding to a list of names, comforting the tribe we know while ignoring our neighbor's pain. We have to start saying the words that admit we have a problem, and we have to come to the table ready. Listen, it won't be enough at first. We can end qualified immunity and mandate de-escalation training today. And again, it will not be enough. But at least we won't be standing still on opposite sides of the cannon, yelling into the void. At least we'll be moving forward. Tyree Nichols, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner. We must learn and change from their deaths too. So I have a quick question, and it's going to be short, 3 quick answers. And, we've talked about this here, Huddle, many times in reference to the training of police officers. Do we feel that the community should be aware of how cops are trained? And do you think that will stop the deaths that's happening so much? Do we believe that communities should know how cops are trained? And if we should know that, do you think it will stop all of the deaths that are happening with the new officers? And just keep in mind, they just had a class of new officers for the NYPD in New York City.
Yeah, when I hear the word training, it just seems like it's such a bogus excuse. I don't know if I'm being fair with that thought process, but I will explain why. I believe that every police officer is encouraged through training to not cause injury to whomever they want to bring into custody. I believe they're properly trained to handcuff people when they get them in a position where they can handcuff them. For example, with Tyree Nichols, they could have handcuffed him like numerous times, and they didn't. I know they're trained to cuff people. They get one arm, bring it back, snatch up the other arm, cuff them, and then put them in the back. So I believe they're properly trained. What I also believe is it won't change until some laws are changed, because right now the level of fear is intense on both sides. On both sides. So I really do believe that in some way the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act in the whole thing, and also the executive orders that Biden can now sign off on, including qualified immunity, sign off on that, will also give the police officers a relief, knowing that they could be the best cops they can be without any retaliation from the so-called bad cops. They need the law to be on their side too. And since the law is not on their side, they have to pick and choose, and usually the wrong side. So I believe the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act can really help a lot of people, including the people in blue. And then the level of fear will decrease. Not to the point where there'd be no killings like that, because there's going to be some evil people just going to carry it out. But I think it will be a relief to people who want to do the right thing but currently don't have the support, and therefore they're going to just ignore it. Now they're going to be charged too, but they're really just trying not to get involved with the bad cops at all, so they'll stand on the side. But I think if the law was on their side, they'll be a little more involved in preventing harm to the person that is currently being arrested. I also want to give you a side note. I'm a retired educator. I taught in the 80s. And I wanted to share quickly this one situation I had in the 80s. I was working as a substitute teacher. And of course, I don't know when the teacher's going to return, so I'm just there in the classroom. I'm trying to make do, because students give subs a hard time, basically. So I'm learning how to work that out. So one thing I used to be able to do, once they did the main academic lesson, art was always my go-to after that. So this particular lesson was around December, was Kwanzaa. So I did my own Kanara, kept it on the side. So whenever they did the academic lesson, they could go do art, including drawing Kanara. We were studying that as a side lesson. So when the teacher returned, she walked in. This is not a teacher of color. She walked in, saw the Kanara, and snatched it down and ripped it up. All I could say in my young mind at that time, because I was still maturing, trying to deal with a lot of stuff. So I just stayed, as quiet as I could. But I said to the students, "You all saw that, right?" That's all I could say, So I feel for these teachers today. I'm not a teacher today. I don't think I could be one, because I'm an activist. So I'm sure I wouldn't have cooperated. So in the meantime, teachers, you'll have our prayers and our blessings, and just keep encouraging civil rights organizations, including National Action Network, who are really on your side, and we're going to do our best to provide you the opportunity to educate, because teachers who really want to be teachers have a heart for their students. I taught in elementary school, so I taught a lot of different subjects, but teachers who really enjoy teaching, they have a compassion for the success of every student. So God bless your teachers, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. Come on. Give us your thoughts.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Good evening, family. My sidekicks again, they're not 100%, so they're not with us tonight. The question, the homework last week was qualified immunity. Qualified immunity, as I understand it, kicks in after the harm has been done. It kicks in after the harm has been done. But it's still a good thing, because, we just don't know what the future holds. There are just some bad people out there. This is bound to happen. And I think, especially for law enforcement, who are here to bring the suspects to their day in court. Because the thing that I don't hear mentioned often enough is that every person who the police encounter, even if they saw them breaking the law, they are still a suspect until they have their day in court. In other words, every person who the police have to encounter and have to take into custody, they are due a right to due process. The right to due process. And actually, if a person is a law enforcement person, then their job, if they are really good at their job, then what they're going to do is they're going to bring the suspect as safely as possible, as sane as possible, as unharmed as possible for their day in court. That's their job. They are not the judge and jury and the executioner. That's not their job. And I don't think that's said enough. If a police officer, if you signed on to be a law enforcement person, I say, God bless you. Because tell you the truth, I wish I was a law enforcement officer. I really would. Because then that would give me some authority to walk through the community, and if I see somebody drop something on the street, I can say, hey, listen, you know, that's littering. And not to mention, don't you think our neighborhood is dirty enough? Why don't you put that in the trash basket? You understand what I'm saying? And then nobody won't be able to look at me and say, man, mind your own damn business. Because then I can say, no, I'm telling you, this is the law. You understand what I'm saying? So, and then what you asked, the question that you asked, should we know what the prospective law enforcement person is being trained? Well, you know, I don't know if that's really that necessary, because then we could say, somebody can argue, well, should we know what the firemen, FDNY, is being trained? Do we know what MTA is being trained? Do we know what the U.S. Postal Service is being trained? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's necessary, really important. I don't think it should be a secret, though. You know, we should have the freedom of information. But I think the most important thing is for us to always remember there's no one size fits all. There's the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. If you're a law enforcement person, your job is not to judge the individual. Because look at it like this way. Even if you saw them do the act, the illegal act, right? You witnessed it. That's going to help your case when you bring them to the court. You'll say, I saw him do it. So that the jury is going to hear that. And that's going to be more evidence against the person to help bring about the conviction.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you very much. I yield back.
Thank you. Wrap us up, Dan.
Hey, Patrice, I want you to just repeat the question because it was a two-part question. I want to make sure I nail both parts.
Should the community be aware of what they're doing as far as being able to know what they're being trained for? And if you believe that they should, is that a model for you to know what the cops are being trained to do?
Well, in retrograde, I think it's important for us to understand it is with limitations I'm speaking, because community members should have confidence in the police department, that the police department is going to protect them in the state of an emergency. Now, there are differences between responses from the police whom have graduated from the police academy and are set to perform bearing the colors of their state to serve. So our community members and community members at large are entitled to certain things. And it's important for us to understand that although it may not be popular and although it may not be common practice for us to know everything that the police whom have graduated the police academy have learned, because not every community member will attend the police academy, we should at least have the right to be confident that our police that are policing our neighborhoods are trained on how to deal with emergency situations, including people with disabilities, emergency situations, including people with mental health problems, so that the empathy is there and there are less of a margin for oversights that could be, in turn, irreversible. It's important for us to understand, with respect to what the gentleman was saying, there's a difference between appellate division court and chancery division court. So we need to understand, to lessen the statistics that show our community members are being disadvantaged due to over-policing, the community should know with confidence that the police are being trained practically to assert an adequate level of protection for our community members so that we are, as a community, better off, so that we are, as a community, living with more vitality, so that we are, as a community, thriving together with less of an opposition perspective to policing, due to the fact that we've historically seen over and over and over, time and time again, through our life experiences, and also as we read periodicals and assess certain research, we see there is an issue with over-policing. And as communities evolve, some of the issues that we face evolve. Some of our strengths and weaknesses evolve. So we need to, as a community, be aware that there are certain things we as community members have rights to know. So historically realizing there are reasons why police officers have scripts that they're supposed to be sure that they communicate to the public to make sure that those encountering the police are not taken advantage of, due to the fact that there are corrupt police officers that are on duty and they make the wrong discretionary decisions. And some of them feel empowered by that. And that is a serious, serious concern that is affecting the lives of Americans nationwide. So I feel it's important for me to say these things because that is my perspective.
Thank you so much. And as I wrap it up, when they always talk about the police academy and training, I don't even know if you can train somebody to have compassion. But most of the cops should be trained to have that, because there's no way that you have 5 officers beating a kid on the floor, and nothing stops one of you to say, nah, man, don't do that. Y'all stood there and watched it. So I don't know if they could put compassion in the training, but they surely should, especially training cops. We can't have any more Tyree Nichols. We just can't. And that wraps up my Did You Know? Thank you.
Okay. So there's a lot going on with the Republicans who are united to oppose the Biden student loan forgiveness and the debt relief initiatives. And right now, the Republicans are urging the Supreme Court to strike down the Biden law forgiveness plan. So where it was already approved, $26 million to borrowers, that they would be forgiven across the 50 states. Now the Republicans are leading the states and conservative lean legal organizations to say stop. So the Supreme Court has taken up 2 cases of oral arguments that are scheduled later for this month, and actually Felipe Dosa and Usman are going to be at the White House on February 28th, and they're going to be having in-depth conversations, rallying and organizing and protesting the Republicans in this act that they tried to hold up for student forgiveness loans, because it is just creating an economic crunch, debt factor that people are not going to come from with under. I still have student loan debt, and I mean, every time when I get halfway is something else. And it's the interest. If they would just take the interest away, that would help a lot of Americans right there. So as the Biden administration argues for the HEROES Act that started effective 2003 with the Education Department to modify the student aid programs in response to the national emergency such as the pandemic, and this would include the broad student loan forgiveness. But here we are again with the Republicans. So Jeff Duncan from South Carolina on Friday is just like, hey, no, we are not, they're overstepping the authority of the Congress to undermine the will of the American people. and to send the country further into a debt. This is ludicrous. This is absurd. So right now, as the former Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos, chimes in as well, she's joining several other former educator secretaries to argue that Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is illegal under the HEROES Act, and it should be vacated. Now, you know, the idea that an executive branch should be unilateral, cancel student loan debt on a mass basis without congressional authority was not taken seriously, and it was really just entertained. But we're still arguing and we're still fighting. So hopefully the Republicans will step back, take a look at the new student loan-driven repayment reforms. And hopefully, and I have the utmost confidence in Felipe and Usman, that they're going to rally and campaign effectively. But as the Republicans keep rolling in the plan, we have Virginia Foxx, another Republican from North Carolina, the woman who is the House of Committee on Education and Workforce, and Senator Bill Cassidy, another Republican from Los Angeles, ranked members of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. They are trying to develop a criticizing plan. Now, we know that the Republicans, they go and they give each other these signs, and that's how the disgracefulness happened at Capitol Hill. I mean, that's just absurd how people just take over. They want to storm in and kill people. So, and during the pandemic. So not only is this creating more mental health, it makes you wonder where the mental health effects are going in for the Republicans. Are they getting any counseling? So right now, the most important fact here is you have parents, such as myself, and my ex-husband. We have signed on for my daughter to help her graduate from Howard University. And she also attended ROTC to help pay for this. But we have the Parent Plus borrowers. We need to be relieved too, because I have a 12-year-old. I would like for him to go to college, but I don't think I could afford to take out another loan unless this forgiveness loan is passed. So Felipe and Usman, our prayers are with you. You are the champions right now at the forefront for the huddle, and we have the utmost confidence that you will make a strong impact and a difference. And right back here on the home front, we will be doing everything we can to support those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina Williams, Education Chair. All right, we're going to wrap up. It was an informative huddle tonight. Just to give a little more information about what Gina was talking about with Felipe and Usman. So the NAACP, Youth and College Division, is leading action on February 28th outside of the Supreme Court building. The Biden administration will be there that day talking about their plans to cancel student debt. The Republicans will also be there basically trying to say no, that's not needed. So NAACP has asked NAN Youth and College, which is Felipe Dosa and Usman in leadership, to partner on that action and to make sure that they bring their following as well, and they're going to be bringing their support to DC to basically make sure that they know that we stand for student loan cancellation. So we're going to support them on that. If you have anybody who would like to go to DC around that issue, young people, we want young people to go. But if you have people there, I know you said your daughter is in DC, but if you know people there, if you know young people that want to go there, we will help get them there so that, because this issue is very, very important. And NAN is an official partner, and we want to support NAACP in this stance because it's an important issue, as Gina said. So salute to you all. February 28th that's the last day of Black History Month. So just make sure you all are aware. If you're interested, just let me know. okay? Or you can just let Felivi or Usman know if you talk to them directly, all right? Tomorrow, again, State of the Union, pay attention. It's important that a lot of the issues that we talked about tonight, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act will be reintroduced by Sheila Jackson Lee with new segments to it for Tyree Nichols. But again, there's so much that we need to be listening for tomorrow. As far as what they're saying, it's gonna be a lot of sugarcoating, but we need to know what's real and what's not. So make sure you pay attention, and if you have questions, bring them next week, and maybe we can talk about it amongst each other and figure it out. Also, I know I pushed this back 4 times, so I'm taking all credit. The Huddleversary Gala is definitely happening. It's not changing. It's forever gonna be. It's gonna be March 6th, which is the first Monday of March. So we have 4 weeks. Cheryl Chapman brought her 2 tickets when I first announced it in December, so I still have those for you. But it's gonna be here in this room. We're gonna transform. It's gonna look different. But we have our honorees for that night, and it's gonna be a special night, and we're gonna celebrate 9 years of NAN Youth Huddle. So I hope you guys come. Hope you celebrate March 6th. And I'm gonna have graphics as soon as JT gets back from London with Rev. We're gonna have all that ready. And tomorrow, also good news. Well, not good news. This is separate. But Dom and I don't know if you watch the Drew Barrymore show, but Dom and I will be in the Drew Barrymore show tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on CBS? Yeah, CBS. So 9:30. You can catch us for the Sharpton Sisters. So, yeah. All right? And we're wrapping up. Mother Kennedy, can you pray us out for dinner? Mother Kennedy? Can you pray us out for dinner, please? And don't forget, next week, Gino, you're hosting. And if I don't know if people know this, but Megan did you knows for today and the information. If you ever have an article or a topic that you want us to talk about here, just email nanyouthhuddle@gmail.com, and we'll definitely get it, and we'll bring it up. Well, we're interested. nanyouthhuddle@gmail.com. Any articles, any links, any topics, or any guests that you want us to invite. Okay? Thank you.
All right. All right, Huddle people, Huddle family. One thing I want to say before we pray, and I have to pray all the time because I am so sick of these Trumplicans. They're not Republicans. Because I come from upstate New York. I was born in Albany and raised up in Saratoga Springs. It's a Republican country. And once this clown got in office, people started withdrawing, especially through upstate. You don't hear this on the news. You're not going to hear it. They don't want to even associate. And they're the ones who started calling those people in office with that clown Trumplicans, because they did not want to be associated as Republicans. That was part of what was going on with that idiot. And I call him an idiot. Next thing is that one of the things that has been happening, especially with me and going back into African and Ethiopian history, is our whole comment and the whole thing that has happened since 1619 down to the present day about lowering your head to pray. If you see anywhere, you look at anything in history, and you go back and look at our people on the continent, when they were praying, they were looking up. When they were praying, their hands were outstretched. My help comes down from above. And when you ask for what you need, you are looking up. The idea of having you close your hands, bow your head, and pray, that was something that was done during slavery, when the chains were about our ancestors' neck and the heads were made to look down. This is one of the things that we really need to study about our history. Because when you look down and you close your eyes, your hands are together, and while your eyes are closed, when you look up, everything is gone because they're robbing, stealing, and pilfering. But if you're looking down and your head is bowed and your hands are clasped, number one, the slave masters never liked to make eye contact because the African ancestors had a stare that could really send you to your grave. These are little known facts that we need to think about and incorporate and think about. Look up when you pray, your hand outstretched, your help cometh down from above. All right. Everybody take a deep breath in through the mouth. Take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time, in and out. Mother, Father, God, creator of the universe, we thank you right now for life, for health, and for strength. We thank you for our ancestors. We thank you upon all of those shoulders that we've stood upon. We thank you for enlightenment. We thank you for learning. We thank you that you are able to keep us. And we ask you right now, cover us, cover us. Bless our leader. Bless National Action Network, not only here, but it's going to be around the world. We thank you for our youth. We ask that you protect us, that you guide us, that help us to stand up and stand out, to show up and show out, because victory is ours. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, but today. We ask you that all of us, we stay prayed up and that we stand on everything that we believe in and hold these people's feet to the fire until victory rains down upon water. Now we ask you right now, in the name of the Mother, Father, everything God, in Jesus' name, protect us, bless us, give us traveling mercy, and give us the strength and the courage we need to stand for all that we believe in. These and other blessings we ask in the name of the Mother, Father, everything God, in Jesus' name, all in agreement. Ashe. Amen. And so it shall be. Amen. Go right there.